Hello, this is Jeff Ryle from G4 Geomatic Resources in Houston, and today we're going to go over how to upload format files and style sheets to a CS20. And what this allows us to do is export some custom data format that could be handy. This is just an example here, some RTK data and this new style sheet that was put out that exports our northern eastern and shows our coordinate quality and tilt values and all that information that's pretty handy for quality control. Okay. Um, so once again, in case you can't see in the video, if I go to Windows, I'll hit Function and hit this little Windows screen, and that'll get me into the Windows. These format files I'm going to provide. So if you go down to the notes below, I'll put a link in there so you can download these files and upload if you want to use them. Okay. So once again, these are some of the files that I'll put up there. And once again, we have the style sheets and the format files. So we're going to use the style sheet, and the format files are older files that were generated from Leica's old software called LGO, and it's not available anymore. But these are some old format files that could still be very beneficial. So I'll include some ones that we use that could be helpful. And the style sheets are new that are created by Leica, and this one here is one that goes over QC data for RTK, especially for GS18. So these files, if you have an SD card or USB, put them under the convert subdirectory, then we'll upload them to the CS20. So that's important where to put those files. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have we have the CS20 here. Let me just scoot on over. And we've copied the files to the convert subdirectory on the SD card. So we came in here to a CS20, then we'd hit Settings, Tools, Transfer Objects, and then we can pick the X at the bottom, the XSL style sheet, and that's the one we're going to upload as the GSQC from the SD card, and I'll then transfer it one time to the internal memory. There's some other style sheets as well for hydrographic that could come in handy, so I include that as well. So those are uploaded as well. Okay. All right, so now we'll go and upload the format file. So we'll go up and Object to Transfer. We'll scroll back up, and then we'll find the format file. And once again, all these format files will be listed. We'll check the box from the SD card to internal, check all of them, and transfer these files over to the internal memory. Okay, so once this is done, we can export and use this at any time. So our job is right there. So we click on it, say Export Data, and there's a style sheet. So right now we can say we'll use that style sheet, and I'll scroll down to device and pick SD card or internal memory, and pick the SD card, and then we can rename that file, hit OK, and it'll export. Probably just take around 30-40 seconds to export that file. Okay. Now once again, we'll go back in Java and do a format file, say Export Data, export with the format file, which is at the top of the list. And once again, we had one that's GNSS tracked, and then there's some other ones in here. So at the top is a 1200 application. This is very handy. Typically in this job, we just did a lot of stakeouts, so it'd be like a cut fill stakeout report. This 1200 application log is really good for TPS data as well. Have all your setups, and once again, there's a GPS point number northeastern and TPS stakeout report. So these files will be available, and you can just export whatever you want to the SD card. Once again, if you have Infinity, it's kind of redundant, but still there are some files, format files and the style sheets that could be real handy. So once again, I'll put it under the data subdirectory on the SD card. All right, so now that's how simple it is to upload and export data from the CS20. Let's take a look at some of these files. So once again, when we exported the style sheet using the GSQC, this one here is redesigned for GS18, so it shows as much points we staked out, and it shows the northern eastern elevation, the code. This is the 3D quality that includes RTK and tilt It shows a tilt angle, so if you want to make sure they're not tilting above a certain angle. So some guys, if it was like a boundary corner, they might want to make sure they're under 30 degrees. And this shows the tilt quality. Um, once again, it's in feet, so that's good. Network is none, so they're using a single baseline. If it had IMAX, it's list IMAX. Time on point. We shot all these instantaneous, so it says 0, but if you sat on a point for a longer period of time, like a boundary control point, it shows how many seconds you sat on that point for, and it's shown here, was tilt used or not. So this is a nice confirmation. The crew can quickly send this out so you can QC the data, make sure it's okay. If we export a format file using the 1200 application, once again, like we said, in this project, this is more geared towards TPS data. In this case, it'd be more like a cut and fill stakeout sheet, okay? But it'll list everything that you did. So for TPS data, it's real handy. Whether you're traversing, setups, all your setup information will be there, stakeout information, it'll just write everything to that file. And once again, we had a format file here for GNSS tracked. Once again, there's nothing too exciting here. It just shows the number of salaries that were tracked if for some reason you wanted to see how many salaries you're tracking at each point. Let's take a look now of some format files and applications for total station work. All right, we're just going to take a quick look with a simulator with the total station. And if we go to Settings, Tools, Transfer Objects, and we can now pick format files. Let's take a look at the format files. So once again, we put in the convert subdirectory, and here's all the format files that we have. We'll transfer from the SD card to the internal memory and hit OK. Okay, so now they're all transferred up. Let's look at a couple things where format files can be used. If I go to Settings, TS Instrument, go to Check and Adjust. What we can do is this little check setting here, Check and Adjust Settings, hit Next. And then we can prompt for how often we want to do our check and adjust. So it's recommended maybe once a month. Now what we can do is I can pick a format file, and we have this adjust.format file, but also this check and adjust. And that's what I recommend. And then you can call it whatever you want. So you want to put a new file name, just call it today's date. And we'll hit OK, store that. So what we want to do is we want to make sure we have the format file attached before we do the check and adjust. We'll hit finish, and then we can go through and do our compensator, then our LMT. I'll escape out of here, so it won't store it. I'll store it to the internal memory under the data. We'll go through that again. And what we can also do now is if I was running a traverse routine, once again, before I did the traverse, we can hit function settings and click on the last report sheet. And once again, it's looking for a format file. So 1200 application log is very, very helpful. But if you scroll down here, there's also a traverse report here. What you'll find is if you're running Infinity, it's kind of redundant, but still, once again, if you ever want to use this, it'll store this. We can call this a different name, and it'll store it to the internal memory under the data subdirectory. Always make sure the format file is attached before we start the traverse or the field adjustment. Okay, so hit OK. Let me escape out here. And once again, if I wanted to export some data, I can click on the job, export data. And that's what asks what format file is. Click on there. And once again, I have several format files. So if you want Civil 3D, you can export from here. And once again, there's some generic TPS, point number Eastern Northern, or GPS Northern Easterns. Once again, these are just handy to have. There's also some GSI format files that could be handy to export if you're going into older software. So I just want to show you how to upload the format files and where we can use them. Format files are really good for check and adjust and traverse as well. Okay. All right. So once again, if I was surveying and we had that GPS report that we used, And let's say some clients weren't using Infinity or just wanted the crew to export that format, that style sheet along with the ASCII file, the office can take a quick look at it. That could be handy, especially if you're working in tougher environments. Want to make sure you do quality control, make sure everything's okay. So once again, this is our G4 Houston team. So if you have any questions, here's all our contact information. If you have any questions on sales, support, survey equipment, or supplies, or service, please reach out. We'd love to help you out. Thanks again for watching. Hope you found it helpful. Look down the notes. I'll put the link in for these files. That way you can load them up and use these files if you find it beneficial. Appreciate your patience and